Hello, everybody. My name's Noah, and today we're going to be talking about pretty much, I think, my favorite console ever, the Nintendo GameCube. The Nintendo GameCube released in 2001, and at the time, it did sell really good because Nintendo consoles really, if it has Nintendo on it, it sold at least decently. It did really good on sales. The sales number is right up there for at least the US. And I overall really like the system. A lot of people, when it came out, it had this is the I forget what generation number it is, but it's that generation with this, the original Xbox and the PlayStation 2. Now, the PlayStation 2 came out with when it came out of the factory, it can play DVDs, and everybody was like, "Whoa, that's so cool!" And like that's like a genius opportunity because if you got the PlayStation 2, then you don't have to buy a DVD player if you didn't already have one. And that was really nice. And the Xbox had the attachment you could buy with this controller, and you plug the little receiver thing right here. It's not one to come out. There we go. This little receiver, and then when you point it, it goes through the Xbox through the controller port. And I mean, that's still a really good option too. But the GameCube really could never have that option. And the reason why is because these optical discs that they used was one of a kind. And as you can see, a normal DVD is that size, and a GameCube disc is this size. Now they use these because they didn't at first Nintendo with the Nintendo 64, even the original PlayStation when that was going with the Nintendo 64 and the original PlayStation, they never were too keen on discs because it was really easy to pirate disc and burn disc. Like I have a burned Wii game right here, and it's easy to do that with disc. So Nintendo was like, okay, so we don't get, so we can make money. Really, we'll make it so we really can't burn those discs, and you really can't buy those discs that size of disc. And they had special little things on the disc, like around the ring. It's going to be probably hard to come up in the camera, but it has like little indentations and stuff. So like even if you had a disc that was like that, it has to be a Nintendo one, and you really can't make burnt GameCube games. So that was a big downfall because the GameCube does not have any way of playing DVDs on it, which honestly, this day and age is not that big of a deal because DVD players are like $20, and they're practically on everything. And you probably, if you don't have a DVD player in your house, then you're Amish or something. I don't know. That's crazy if you don't. But another thing I would say that I really like about this is that they released this attachment that goes on the bottom of the system. That's called it can play Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, and original Game Boy games on there. And it's a really cool feature. Now you do need when you get that piece of hardware, which I don't have because they're pretty expensive, but the expensive part about it is you need a boot disc to put in here, and then to put it in here, then you put the game underneath here, and then you can start up the Game Boy game. Now that boot disc goes for around $80, and it is really expensive, but you get good quality, and it is really good quality, and it's a nice feature where you can play Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, and Game Boy Color on your TV. Now they did release the Super Game Boy for SNES, which this is also a really cool add-on for the Super Nintendo, which can play original Game Boy games only, which this is still cool, but having the GameCube add-on that can play Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, and Game Boy Color on your TV is a no-brainer. Now, there is a Retron 5 that can play Game Boy. I think it can only play Game Boy Advance, which that is cool, but I would say I'd recommend if you have a decent amount of money, get a GameCube and get that bottom slot if you really do like those Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, and Game Boy Color games, because it's an amazing way. And another thing is the GameCube controller. The GameCube controller is one of the best controllers ever made. I think it is the most comfortable. It is amazing how well it fits in your hands, and just like when it wraps around it, and you got these triggers, like everything about this controller feels amazing. Now, they did throw them in a lot of colors. This is not factory. Most people have, if you talk about a GameCube, they had the purple GameCube. Now, the purple GameCube, I don't know why they really released it purple. Like, as their, like, I think that's the launch color was purple. Now, they have purple. They have that silver right here. And this is called Platinum. And it says Special Edition on the box if you find a GameCube. It's not Special Edition. They made a million of them. They have purple, silver, black, and then what this color right here on the system, only for Japan, is called Spice Orange. And I gotta say, I do really like that color. It's just, I don't know, it's amazing. And this, yeah, these controllers, to find a licensed GameCube controller in good condition, it's gonna run you up to, right now, I would say around 30 plus, because GameCube is hot right now. Every GameCube games, you really can't find a GameCube game for $1, even if it sucks. GameCube games are great. My favorite, I would say probably my favorite game on the system and what I grew up with is Luigi's Mansion. It is a great game. I don't care what anybody has to say about it. They did release the new one on Switch, Luigi's Mansion 3, and then they had the other one which was on 3DS. I like pretty much any Luigi's Mansion game, but this is ultimately my favorite because the vibe. And when this came out, there was no really game that starred Luigi by himself. They had Mario is Missing on the NES and SNES, and that had Luigi as the main player trying to find Mario, going around towns and like asking Koopa Links and you had to get history questions right. It wasn't that good of a game, but this is I pretty much consider this as the first game Luigi starred in as a full character, because he is once again going into the mansion looking for his brother. And in the other game, Mario is Missing, he's looking for Mario. So it does have that kind of concept where Luigi is looking for Mario. And overall, if you've never checked out this game, the original game, on the hardware, you need to buy it. You need to check out this game. Now, this game is a licensed Nintendo game, like a Mario. It is a Mario game. So it is going to run a couple expensive for a complete copy. I would say it runs around $40, because I just bought this one recently and I wanted to get a black label. And the GameCube has like player's choice copies where it has this yellow up here, which it doesn't really bother me that much, but for my favorite game on the system, I wanted to make sure I get a black label. So black label, fully complete, goes around 40 plus. Another great game on the GameCube that I just currently got from my neighbor actually is Wario World. Now this game is honestly, it's kind of like Luigi's Mansion. It's not the same game, but like how Wario has his own game, which they do make Wario games like they have a few on Gameboy, have some on Virtual Boy, and they have one on the Wii, Wario Smooth Moves, and I have it up there. And this game is really fun. It's weird. I would say if you do got a GameCube and you don't have this game, definitely look up playthroughs a little bit. Don't spoil it all for yourself, but it does get really hard at the end. I'm trying to 100% complete this one, and it is driving me a little crazy at the end. I'm in the last chapter, but it is a great game. And to have it it's not in there because it's in my GameCube right now, but to have this one fully complete goes for around $25-$30. These games are pretty expensive, especially right now with the pandemic. People are staying inside and buying a lot more stuff online, so prices have gone up at least probably about $5 a piece on everything. Honestly, even more sometimes. Now, what everybody talks about the GameCube, this game always gets talked about, and if you probably heard of it before, is Super Smash Bros. Melee. Now, this game is a really good game. I didn't have this when I grew up and had a GameCube. I don't know why. It's just never really had it. I had Smash Bros. Not Melee, Brawl, and it's really fun on the Wii. A lot of people don't like that one, but if you can find this game for cheap, definitely pick it up. This game, it's all over the place because everybody wants this game. It can go up to $80 at one time. Like about a year ago, it was at really expensive. Now it's back down. It's kind of going down because there's so many of these games out there. Like, everybody has this game. And to get, once again, complete, it's pretty expensive. I would say right now it's going around $40, but it's crazy. If you find that game cheap, definitely make sure to pick it up. Alright, I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit with these games that I think are just great. The first 3D Metroid game, Metroid Prime, and this is a combo with Metroid Prime Echoes. It's a bonus disc combo. If you find this game for cheap, it goes for around $20. It's a really fun shooter game. It's got an interesting tale to it, and the story is really good. If you find this with both the discs, I would recommend getting the one with both the discs because it's sold with just this game as a separate thing and sold this game as a separate thing. So if you can find the combo for cheap, I would say definitely check this one out. Okay, another great game for the system. I would say for multiplayer aspect, Worms 3D. If you've never played a Worms game, multiplayer, it is so fun. Even the single player, I find some enjoyment out of this one. It is a really fun Worms game. I would say this is probably the best Worms game. There's a new one out on Switch. It got like limited run release, and it is really fun as well. But this one is really cool. They got like an animated look to them. It's really, really fun. This one doesn't have the manual, but it's a really fun multiplayer game. I played this with my brother-in-law, and we had a blast. It's really a fun game. If you find that for cheap, it's not that expensive. I think it goes for around 10 to 15. I got mine. I fortunately found my games really cheap before GameCube game prices went really insane. But a few other good games is this Sega release game, which is called Billy and the Hatcher and the Giant Egg, released by Sega. It's made by the Sonic team. It's a really fun game. You're this kid named Billy, and you got this egg, and it's pushed around. It's got definitely that Sega feel to it. And this game is a little expensive. It can go crazy sometimes, kind of like Melee. It's weird because, I mean, people do want the game, but it's not as, like, wanted as other games like Melee. So it goes around, I would say 40. That's my guess, but I don't know. And one last game I am going to pick, because I love the system, and I like a lot of games on here, and I could talk about them all day, but is Battalion Wars. As you look at it, you might just think, oh, it's just an army game. But it is a really, really fun game. I had this one as a kid, and it's even got a Blockbuster sticker. My dad bought a lot of GameCube games when Blockbuster went out, so it's kind of cool. He has the Blockbuster case. I love these cases. But this game is really fun. It's got a really cool story to it. It's kind of got a little bit of an RPG feel to it. It's really fun how you can get, like, tanks, different dudes, and, like, it's kind of hard to explain. You kind of got to just check it out yourself. But this game, it goes, I think, around 15, right, when the last time I checked. But it's not super expensive, and for the story and for all it's going for, it is really good. So, another thing I want to talk about the GameCube is there's some GameCubes that have this classic port. It's going to be hard to catch up. That's got the classic AV port, which is on the Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, and on the GameCube. But another port on some models is this digital AV out. Now, only some models have this one, like this silver one I got down here, which is a later revision. Since that was more expensive, they just did the AV out. I'm trying to catch it here. Just one port, which I understand. That composite cable is insanely priced. I'm not even joking. Those cables go for almost, I think, $300 for those cables. Sometimes even more. It's insane, but it is really good quality. If you find one of those cables, get them at any price. If you find one, like, at, like, a thrift store or something, it says GameCube at the end, like a Nintendo logo. These, I've been looking for one for a long time, because obviously I'm not going to be spending $300 on a cord, because I do not have money like that. But, yeah, that's mostly a bit it. It did really good. It was, weirdly, the PlayStation 2 did sell the best. Then it was, the original Xbox was in third place, and then GameCube was in second place. The PlayStation 2 just exploded, and PlayStation 2 has over, I think, 3,000 games made for it. The GameCube does have a huge library for games. I personally do not like the PlayStation 2 that much, but I do appreciate the system. I just feel like I'm not going to get into it right now, but I feel like Sony kind of copied Nintendo a little bit in certain stuff, and I don't really like Sony that much, as in video game console wise. But to each their own. I really like Nintendo, and some people don't like Nintendo, so it's just different opinions. Alright, well, I hope you guys enjoyed what I had to say about the Nintendo GameCube. I just really have always grown up with this system, and I honestly personally really like it. And if you guys have any information about the GameCube or any thoughts or feelings, if you grew up with one, put a comment down below and we can talk about it. It's a really fun system. It's great for multiplayer. Honestly, there's not really that much I have to complain about the system. It's overall one of my favorite systems. I would say it's definitely in my top 3, but it's the one I grew up. In my household, we got the GameCube I was born in 2003, so it was released in 2001. So I had it. I think we got one around close to then, and I always knew this thing around the house. I didn't really play with it too much until I turned around, I think around 10, and then I started playing it like crazy. We had this, then we got the Wii on launch day. My dad stood in line at, I think it was at Toys R Us. I don't know exactly, but he stood in line for a Wii on launch day. We didn't get a Wii U on launch, but we got the Wii U pretty early. I think it was close to when it started out. I got it that Christmas. For me and my dad shared it. And then we both have a Switch. So my household has always been heavy on Nintendo. We've always grown up with it, and I honestly really do love the company. As you can tell, I really do like Nintendo. I have every Nintendo console except a 3DS and a Virtual Boy. And the pre-NES stuff, like the TV consoles, because those are really expensive. And if you don't count Game & Watches. But yes, if household consoles, I pretty much have every single one except the Virtual Boy, and I'm looking for a Virtual Boy. I just need to find one cheap. But yeah, I just always loved Nintendo, and it's always had a fond place in my heart. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay safe, and remember, smile always.